Takes a minute to load, it looks like. Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to another Business 101 interview with the experts. This is a segment here at the Economic Alliance where we conduct short interviews with specialists in a variety of fields related to small businesses. My name is Mason Duke, and I'm happy to be joined here today by Lou Blakeney, Certified Business Advisor with the Small Business Development Center. How you doing, Lou?
Hi, good to be with you, Mason.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about your background, Lou?
Certainly can. Well, Mason, I started my career. I went to engineering school, graduated, and it was in the era that you either got drafted or you went into the Army. So I did a tour of duty in the Army, and that was somewhat beneficial. And I ended my tour. I was in charge of a ordnance maintenance unit that had over 100 soldiers. So I got some hands-on experience dealing with people and managing operations. From there, I was able to get the GI Bill and went to graduate school of business and got some further training. So I kind of made a career change from being an engineer to being a business person, business orientation. And following graduation from school, I signed on with IBM, became a computer salesman and went through their sales training program and learned the ins and outs of what it is to be a in-person cold call salesman. So that was a wonderful experience. But I knew that wasn't my lifetime career, and I went on and was involved in a number of small businesses and large businesses. And I transitioned again and got experience in the admin side, also finance and accounting, and sort of got a well-rounded background in the different disciplines of business. And then I'd always, because of my dad, I grew up in a home. My dad, when I left home going to school, he was part owner of a small business. And so I had that desire to be in the small business arena. And about midway through my career, I decided I really wanted to go that direction to small business, and asked around, and through a banker mutual contact, I found out about a manufacturing business that was for sale because his owner had died and the widow was running it. So I had an opportunity and took that jump to purchased a small manufacturing business and ran and operated it for 13 years. Was fortunate enough that one of my customers wanted to buy us out. And then from that was over in the Seattle area, and I'd always wanted to be in Eastern Washington. So I took that opportunity to be a refugee from Metro Seattle area and came over to Okanagan County, where I live now. And so now I looked around and found an opening with the Washington Small Business Development Center Network, and took that opportunity. And I've been doing this business advising for over 20 years. I really enjoy it. It's a good opportunity to stay involved with people in the small business community. And somewhat I feel like it's an opportunity to pay back. A number of people were helpful in my career. And so this is partly a way that I can sort of pay back.
That's great. It's a very impressive array of experience you've got. So can you tell us a little bit more about the Small Business Development Center and what you do for it?
Yes, well, the center is kind of a misnomer. It's actually a network of offices. The Washington Small Business Development Center is all across the state. It's a nonprofit, non-governmental organization. There's well over 30 advisors. We provide business advice and services at no charge. We're able to do that because we're co-sponsored by, first of all, the Economic Alliance, where we are today. And we're also co-sponsored by the SBA of the federal government, and we're co-sponsored by Washington State University. So they pay for the expenses and my compensation to work with the small business community here in Okanagan County, and there's no charge for our service. Our mission is helping small businesses to start, grow, and be successful. The one thing I want to caution, we are not a source ourselves of loans or grants, but we do help people in that regards. Now, my role is to advise clients wanting to start and grow their small businesses. So I do a variety of things. I meet with people that are considering starting a business, kind of advise them on their options on what kind of business entity to be. Also work with people that have decided to move forward on starting up. So there's a lot of challenges on registration and licensing. So I try and help them through that obstacle of getting properly licensed and permitted. We also help people with business planning, whether they're just starting a business or whether they've been in business a while. We feel very strongly that a successful business needs a written business plan to be successful in the long term. I do a fair amount of work assisting people with business loans. Again, we are not a source of the loans, but over the years, I've worked with a number of lenders. I know the process. There's a number of documents that are required in order to do a successful application. So I try and help the clients through that challenge, that minefield, if you will, on putting together their paperwork. And in particular, if they're going to get an SBA guaranteed loan, they need to get they need to present a business plan. They need to do cash flow projections. They need to have financials and so on. In addition, we do marketing research and we help people with marketing strategies. Marketing is the concept of how do you acquire your customer base or how do you grow it. There's a lot of challenges in that and a lot of people struggle with that. I help quite a few managing their cash flow, and particularly in the small business community, I find there's a lack of really understanding of accounting, the role of accounting, how to read a financial report, how to use it in managing a business. And we have the cliche, in order to manage a business, you have to measure. And that's really what your financial reports are doing for you. And it's important for each owner to understand how they can use the report and make decisions and so on. I also work with people on analyzing and again, explaining what the financial reports are. They're sometimes, often the accountants or the tax preparer don't have the time and don't take the effort to explain what the numbers mean to the business owner. And then the last few things we do, we help people on administrative issues, employee issues. We advise on buying and selling businesses and so on.
Great, yeah, and I definitely agree that financial aspect tends to be one of the things that intimidates people a lot. So it's great that you're able to help out with that. Now, if a local small business wants to set up an appointment with you to think over any of these things, what is the process of that? How do they go about doing that?
Well, thanks for asking that. There are several ways. First of all, they can call the Economic Alliance, just call the main office, 509-826-5100, or they can call the Small Business Development Center Network, which is a 1-800-492-7232. There's also a link to a website. If they call the SBDC network, they actually can get registered directly, and then the administrative staff will contact me and we can set up a mutual convenient appointment. I can meet with them either in person, if they'll meet here at the Okanagan office of the Economic Alliance, or we can do it by phone, or if it's convenient for both of us, maybe sometimes I meet at the client's place of business. So Mason, can you post that somewhere convenient for the viewers to get that those numbers?
Yes, we will have that contact information going up on our Facebook after this interview concludes.
Okay.
So are there any prerequisites that a current business owner or an aspiring business owner should have taken care of before they set up that appointment and meet with you?
Well, thanks for asking that question. And so let's do it to break it down between startups and existing. So with a startup, they really need to have some idea of what they want to do, some kind of concept. It's quite frustrating when somebody comes in and just says they want to do a small business, but they haven't really thought about it. And that can be a waste of time for both of us. So I would really ask them to at least have an idea of what they want to do and maybe have some reasons for that. Secondly, they need to have some kind of cash or somebody, friend or family, somebody in the community that's going to help them to fund the startup. It's just about impossible to start with no money. No, I'll just caution that if somebody has assets, if they have equity in a home, equity in vehicles, equity in a vacation property or whatever, it might be possible to help them understand how they could get financing with that as collateral and then use that money to start a business. So those are things we can talk about, but they need to have they need to think ahead of time where they're going to get the money to start this. Then as far as, before I forget, they need to have, thirdly, some kind of skills or training. It's very difficult for somebody right out of school, or even right out of the Army, without any types of trade skills or special knowledge to do a business startup. So they need to think about what do they have, what experience do they have that can be used to be successful in starting a business. Now, as far as existing businesses, it really helps if they give some thought to what their problem is. Though often I find some people just look at their financial reports and realize they're not making a profit. So they know they got a problem, but they don't know where it is. So either way, it is helpful if they can bring in financial reports, for instance, an income statement or a balance sheet, or at a minimum, a tax return, business tax return. And I can work with them and try and identify what the problem is. And the cliche there is 90% of solving a problem is first figuring out what it is. And just losing money is too general a problem. We need to go deeper to find out more specifically what area we need to focus on. So those are, again, existing businesses have some idea of the problem, and secondly, have some financial reports so that we can review those and at least discuss whether they want to go for a loan or what their thoughts are.
Excellent. That's great information. Now, you've been in this line of work for several years now, and are there any common stumbling blocks that you tend to come across most frequently with businesses that come into you asking for help? And you've already mentioned a distinction between startups and existing businesses. So do those roadblocks and stumbling points tend to be different between those two?
Well, again, a good question. Both seem to have the problem of lack of cash or collateral or assets to obtain a loan. So that's the first thing, is they need to have some thought as to how they can contribute. Generally, if somebody's going to get a loan, they're going to have some kind of equity in the contribution. It's very rare that a lender will do 100% lending. The client has to have something, either money already invested into the business, or again, have some collateral like equity in a home, equity in a car, and so on. So they need to think about that and be ready to talk about it. Another stumbling block is a lack of a mission or a purpose. And too often people are just general. Let's just take an example. Let's say it's a plumber. So they say, well, I'm a plumber. My mission is to be the best plumber in the community. Well, that's a good goal, but it's not specific enough, and it really doesn't narrow it to why they are distinctly different. Another question I would ask them is, why would people choose you over your competitor? What is the difference? And then somebody says, well, I'm better. Well, that's your opinion. I don't know. But for instance, an advantage might be if they have a new gizmo or a widget that they can use to trade that their competition doesn't have. That would be a competitive advantage. If they've got some kind of specialized training that they've through their plumbing training or some technical school they went to, that would be certainly an advantage. If they've got a skill, like I've dealt with over the years, people that do the thermal heating under floors, that's part of the plumbing trade. And so if they've got expertise in doing plumbing under thermal heating under let's say a basement floor, and the other plumbers haven't done that. So right there, you got a distinct advantage. So that's an example of having something that's different in the marketplace. And then lack of experience or training is quite a common stumbling block. So let's say somebody wants to be a plumber and hasn't got first of all, plumbers, electricians in the state of Washington, the labor and industries requires them to have certification as individuals. And so if they haven't gone through that process and aren't even aware of that, then right there, you got a problem. And there's some other trades that require prior training or prior schooling. Other areas, beauticians, haircut people, there's a number of skills that require training for the individual before they start the business. So those are all areas that they need to look at if they're going to start up a particular business.
All right. So we spoke a little bit about just now about challenges that the businesses you advise face. Now, is there a particular aspect of business advising that you find to be more challenging than others?
Well, there certainly are, and I hate to say it, but the lack of money is probably the number one stumbling block and a challenge. Worse than that is poor credit. So I'm working with an individual right now that unfortunately got in trouble with the law. He was actually in jail for a while. That was a cause for him to go bankrupt. Uh, Prior to that, he did very well. And since then, he's done very well financially. But having that on his record is a problem that he has a very low credit score. So we're working right now to give you some ideas on how he can rebuild his credit. Because particularly when you get into business loans, that could be a very negative factor in getting the loan he needs to really go forward on a business. So people watching this, just be aware of your credit. You can actually get free credit reports, so you can go to a bank and get a credit report, but need to be aware of where you are in your credit world if you expect to start a business, grow a business without getting loans. And then as far as businesses that I'm working with, another very frustrating issue is people running a business without adequate financial controls. I hate to say it, but there are some business people, the only thing they have is at the end of the year, they have a tax return. And so that's information that's a year old. And we go through that and we find out what was wrong last year, but it's not telling him where he is this year. So part of that is just a frustration that people aren't willing to keep records or not willing to pay to have somebody help them. So that's an area, a discussion we have to have and get them to agree that they need to get some kind of financial controls and reporting. They are not required to do it themselves, but if they don't want to do it, they need to hire somebody, at least on a part-time basis, to help them maintain financial tracking of their transactions. That's how we can make decisions, as I mentioned earlier. We have to measure in order to manage. So that's probably the biggest, the lack of money, the lack of financial controls is probably the two biggest factors on why businesses fail, is that people aren't watching the money flow. And of course, without your money, you're doomed to fail. You can't pay your vendors, you can't pay your employees, you're going to be out of business before you know it. The other frustrating factor would be people that have lack of skills. They go into an area and they haven't developed the knowledge they need, or they haven't been able to acquire employees or advisors that can help them in the technical aspects of whatever business you're in. So those are all areas: poor credit, lack of funds, lack of financial reports, lack of adequate skills. Lastly, I'd say poor work ethic. They're not motivated. And there are people that dream of having their own business and being wealthy and so on, sit behind a desk with their feet on the desk and smoking a cigar. You got to be willing to work hard. That is a quick separator of people that are successful and people that aren't. If you're not willing to work hard, and sometimes very long hours in the early years of the business, then small business is not going to be a good place for a client. So they really have to do a self-assessment. If they just want a 9-to-5 job, they just want to work limited weeks, they don't want to work at night, they don't want to be there on the weekend, they don't want to deal with angry customers, they should reconsider and go into a field where they can, I won't suggest a field, but there are other professions maybe that don't require so much hard work as small business. Successful small business employees, owners, it's a tough place to be, but it can be very rewarding financially and emotionally, but it can take hard work. And if you're going to avoid hard work, then this is not the place for you.
Certainly. Now, to shift things in a bit more of a fun direction, are there any ideas that have been pitched to you by prospective startups over the years that stand out to you as being especially creative or unexpected?
Well, yes, that's a good question. And over the years I have. Now I have to be careful because we have a confidentiality agreement with our clients, so I can't be specific. But a few came to mind. drone photography is getting to be a big thing. Now we hear about the drones over in the wars going on around the world, but most people have watched on the computer. You've seen drone footage of flying over an area like a disaster area or so on. But I had a fellow. It's been a number of years now, but this is an example of taking advantage of modern technology as new things come out. Say 10 years ago, drones were a new deal. So I had an individual that had been a photographer, professional photographer, and then he got the idea of a business where he would take drones and he would photograph either just stationary shots or videos of, for instance, for realtors, if they're trying to show a property. So he could fly the drone over the property and take different kind of views. Another market for that would be events, weddings, professional events, sporting events. Though sporting would be a problem because of licensing, I think, with the NFL or the Major Baseball or whatever. But certainly in the minor leagues or the let's say Little League, that would be something that you could do. But anyway, so to me that was an example of taking emerging technology and transferring it into a business opportunity. So my example is primarily to be thinking about new things that are available and how they might become a new business. Another one that I've worked on over the years, tiny homes have kind of been a hot button for a while. Tiny homes is a new phenomenon. Well, the last 10 or 15 years, and more and more, there's been people that have come to me and they want to do them just for individuals that maybe want to put a tiny home in their backyard for maybe a nightly rental. There's been tiny homes that people were talking about, communities of tiny homes. So that was a novel thing that I began to learn about. Part of that field is in the communities, but there is a business aspect to it that people could look at. And then another one that came to mind that really was novel and strange was TP rentals. And I thought, who in the world? And then I got to thinking about it. So this one individual who was Native American came up with this idea of having, well, TPs were probably the original tents. So when they have events, this individual could set up at the venue, could set up a small community for tents and then rent them out to the guests. And then also she came up with the idea of coming up with kits that people want to, they don't want to have a tent, but maybe they want to have a TP and be, maybe that says something about them, or again, the venue. So these are all very novel ideas, but I just challenge people to think of what's being done today that perhaps there might be a demand out there, and maybe they could turn that into a business opportunity. Basically, what business is really all about is identifying a market, which we define as a group of like-minded people that will pay money for goods or services. That's the market. The market isn't actually a physical place. It's a term we use for same kind of individuals that would be buyers of your goods or services. So just look around where you are, think about what people are looking for, and then that might be an opportunity for you to start a business or grow a business.
Yes, absolutely. As the technology progresses and the world changes, there's always new opportunities arising and new businesses that are waiting to be built out there. So Lou, was there anything else that you wanted to add, or something you feel like we've missed so far in this interview before we call it a day?
Well, there is. I was thinking about earlier we talked about starting a business, growing a business, but we didn't really focus extensively on buying a business. And I find that over the years that sometimes clients are missing an opportunity. They're working at a place, maybe they're second in command or whatever, and they just want to start their own business. And they haven't even considered that maybe they ought to approach the owner of that business about what the long-term plans are. First of all, the business owner. Someday this person is going to want to exit that business. So the question would be, is there an opportunity for this current employee to work out some kind of a long-term agreement? And long-term could maybe only be a year or two, that they're going to make an agreement that this employee, my client, maybe approaches the owner and says, look, I'd like to buy your business. Someday you're going to retire. Is there any way you consider that we could work out some kind of arrangement where I would take over your business when you're ready to retire? So that provides a new opportunity for somebody to get into their own business. I should also add that it's much easier to get financing for an existing business than it is for a startup with no history. The lenders are more comfortable lending money to an existing business because it has a financial track record of success. It's got an established market. It's got products already. It may have additional employees that are going to continue if there's a change in ownership. So I would really encourage those that want to go into business for themselves to not limit their options to starting a business. I would suggest they should look around. First, they should, if they're working for somebody, look and see if that's an opportunity. If not, consider other people in that industry that maybe are up towards retirement age. And they can look not only in their own community, but maybe, for instance, Okanagan County and other communities. They might even consider other towns in the state. I'd be more than willing to sit down and talk to them about it. We can sort of map out a strategy on how they're going to seek a business to buy, and I'd be happy to work with them. But I really think, again, knowing that it's easier to get financing for buying existing business than starting one from scratch, that there might be opportunities out there that are being overlooked by people, again, that want to go into business for themselves. Starting a business is not the only option. So please keep that in mind, and be happy to meet with you and talk about that.
Yeah, I think that that sort of succession planning is definitely a concern that a lot of businesses in the area have. And as someone who has bought and sold businesses yourself, that's something that you have some firsthand knowledge and expertise on, and can definitely help people out with.
Absolutely.
So I'm not seeing any other questions from our live viewers. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. I'd like to thank you again for joining us today, Lou. It's great for our local small businesses to know that the SBDC is out there and that you are a free and confidential resource that they can use if they have any questions or problems that come up. Anyone who's interested in setting up an appointment with you, as we've mentioned, can do that by contacting us here at the Economic Alliance office or by calling the SBDC directly. And all of that information on how to do that is going to be up on our Facebook page and our website. So, and do not forget to join us next week on Tuesday, the 26th from 9 to 2. We're going to have Roxanne Best here, and she's going to lead an educational workshop on digital storytelling. Now, the training is totally free, and it's going to be available by Zoom or in person. We just ask that people register in advance so that we know how many people are going to be here. Yeah, details for that on Facebook and the website once again. So thanks everyone for tuning in today, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, Mason. Bye, everyone.
See you, Lou.